Hi, Internet. Welcome to the Troyan YouTube channel. So today we're doing something a little bit different. Today we're ranking Beatles albums. It's the title that you clicked on. Who would have thought that's what the video would be? So, as you know, you can't really react to the Beatles on the YouTubes. I'm able to react to them on my Patreon, but can't really do it on YouTube. Um, and I got a suggestion from one of the viewers on this channel to say, hey, why don't you rank Beatles albums? So I'm going to do that just so I can just talk about them a little bit. This ranking is very off the cuff. It's an incredibly difficult thing to rank Beatles albums. So what I decided to do was just not put too much thought into it and just sort of do like a gut reaction, shoot from the hip, because I know in 10 minutes my ranking could be completely different. Just because they're all so good. And so it's like, oh man, which perfect album do you put at the top of this, list of perfect albums? So I just made a ranking. I made it quick. If I did this exact same video tomorrow, it might be a completely different order. This is how I was feeling, just like at the time. So if you disagree with me, like I'm not gonna fight you on it. I'm like, yeah, it's perfectly reasonable that you had that order. So I'm just gonna go from the bottom of my ranking to the top. So these are going to be the British studio albums, sort of the canonical version of the catalog. So I'm not going to do Past Masters, Volume 1 and 2. I feel like that's cheat. I'm not going to do the US releases. This is sort of like what is generally considered to be the canonical UK and then remastered releases of the catalog. So, okay, so we're going to start with Yellow Submarine. Only half of it is Beatles songs. The other half is basically the George Martin score, which is fine. But I think these are some of the weaker songs in the catalog, and then the fact that it's only half an album of Beatles songs, the other half is a solid score, but not even one of my favorite film scores. Made this one pretty easy to put at the bottom. Um, Next up is actually Let It Be. So I don't actually even have Let It Be on CD because I'm just so grumpy with the mixes that why am I blanking on the guy's name? The crazy guy with the gun who does the Wall of Sound, Phil Spector. I don't know why I was blanking on his name because I actually really respect his production techniques and styles overall. Not like waving guns at people and like killing people, not that. But I'm saying like in terms of his innovation sonically, dude did some great stuff. But I think his production choices on Let It Be as a whole, the version that got released in 1970, was actually he made a lot of really bad choices in my opinion, especially what he did to the Long and Winding Road. So I have the Let It Be naked version, which honestly some of the versions on the original Let It Be album are better. Um, but this version of the Long and Winding Road is so much better that and like I don't know, just part of it just felt like dirty. Like the Beatles didn't have say in the version that Spector did. So like it's always like sat a little bit wrong with me in terms of the Beatles catalog. Like that one just like it like they didn't have the final say in like the finished versions of the songs. So there are other albums where like the record company put out, but like they recorded them the way they wanted to. Let It Be, was originally titled Get Back. It was shelved for a reason, and I just thought it was a bummer, what happened with it. Where I still think like Let It Be is one of the best albums of all time, but because of that baggage it carries with it, is why it usually comes towards the bottom of my Beatles ranking. And now it gets so tough, and just like I don't even know. Uh, Please, please me. It hurts to rank this low. I mean, sometimes this is like my number two Beatles album, but it's just the way I was feeling today. Man, it's ranked too low. I mean, there's so many great songs on here. I mean, this is so rough. The thing is, like, this is a great album of its era, and so it's not necessarily innovating things too much. Like, it's the Beatles doing stuff that's kind of similar to what's out at the time, but kind of doing it better than anyone else. So it's a killer album of just like, it's a great transition between like the 50s rock and like what the Beatles would become known for. So like, this would go great next to an Elvis record. This is so good. It's a masterpiece. I can't even it's so low. I feel so bad. You just got to roll with it. Favorite tracks, all of them. Yeah, it's so freaking good. I mean, just like there's not a bad track on here, but that's all the albums. Painful stuff. All right, so next up, we got Magical Mystery Tour, which a lot of fans don't consider to be a real album either. I basically consider it to be a real album. Part one is, side one is an EP of songs that was for the movie, and then part two was like a bunch of singles from around this era. But like, it's hard to argue with this track list. I mean, Your Mother Should Know, All You Need Is Love, Hello Goodbye, Strawberry Fields Forever, Penny Lane, Baby You're a Rich Man, Fool on the Hill, the title track. It is, you can't argue with this track list. Like, this is just a killer listen. Um, and so the reason I put above Please Please Me is that I feel like, because Please Please Me has a lot of like covers on it, and the covers are done very well. But I think just like these have like some of the Beatles' strongest singles on a single release. And so that's why I gave it the slight edge in my ranking today. But on most days, I actually might rank Please Please Me above this. So it's just like, it's the mood I was in today. Then you've got Beatles for Sale. I mean, all right, I like Mr. Moonlight. I don't care what everyone's, rags on that song. I think it's cool. I think it's great. I mean, freaking 8 days a week. I don't want to spoil the party, what you're doing, everybody's trying to be my baby. And of course, like the Lennon trilogy at the start of the album, No Reply, I'm a Loser, Baby in Black. I mean, it's really good. Like, this is like Beatles when they were like exhausted in the studio, and they're just like, oh, fine, let's just put another one out. And even them being exhausted is still like better than most bands at maximum capacity. And especially just like the performance on No Reply is just so freaking killer. I put Rubber Soul above Beatles for Sale. Now, I actually probably listen to Beatles for Sale more, so normally that ranks about. It's just the mood I'm in today. I was just looking at this track list and like, oh man, Michelle and Girl and In My Life and Wait, just all these songs. Just for some reason, I just like I was in the mood to elevate it up. Um, Run for Your Life is a very peculiar song just because it's so dark and menacing. But it has this very like bouncy music. So that's an oddity in the catalog where I actually find it a very fascinating listen from a compositional standpoint. Then you got A Hard Day's Night. This is the first album, and where you have no covers. It's all originals, all Lennon McCartney, pretty much all Stone Cold classics. The film is great, but I knew the album before I knew the film, and just just all Stone Cold classics. I pretty consistently put this about in the middle of the catalog for me. Okay, so this is actually usually my number one Beatles album. It just wasn't today, but like I said, it's mood shifts. This is just early Beatles. I think I like the sound of early Beatles better than latter day Beatles. I'm a little bit in the minority on that. But yeah, this is just such a killer record. I mean, just you know, I actually I did Please Mr. Postman is going to be on the Patreon this month. So if you want to hear a reaction to that song in particular, check out the Patreon. But yeah, just so many Stone Cold classics. It hurts to rank it this low. The White Album, this could almost win just based upon pure volume of great songs. Um, I actually probably should have ranked this one lower because I forgot that Revolution number 9 was on here, and that is actually by far the worst thing the Beatles ever did. So I probably should have ranked it lower and dotted points for that, but there's so many great songs on here. I mean, Why Don't We Do It in the Road, musical masterpiece, Helter Skelter, invented heavy metal. Yeah, just absolute masterpiece of an album. Revolver, just chock full of great songs, really great production on this. I think Tomorrow Never Knows has some of the coolest like bass playing and production on in the entire catalog. Taxman is a great George Harrison led opener. I mean Eleanor Rigby, I'm Only Sleeping, one of the best produced Beatles songs. I mean this whole album. The thing is, if I'm doing like a Beatles like album ranking, I'm just going to list off every song off every album and say it's great. And so I'm finding that to be a little bit redundant. So I'm just like, yeah, my reasoning. I don't know. This was one of my most listened to Beatles albums in high school, so it just reminds me of high school Greg being into this Beatles album. So, but also high school Greg was really into With the Beatles. I just put them in an order. It's tough. Sergeant Pepper's. I mean, you can't argue with the track list. I enjoy concept albums. I love how there's a cohesion in terms of the sonics and atmosphere of this album. Like it really, this entire album is an experience, and yeah, it's just I just love that the vibe and the world that this sucks you into, um, and I can see why a number of people like there are certain Beatles albums that people say are the best Beatles album. This is one of the ones people claim is the best. The White Album being another one, um, Revolver being another one. But I think that this one is fairly. I think it's fair to cite this as one of the most influential albums of all time because it really like made this album such an experience, and so many other albums did that whole like sucking you in to the entire atmosphere of it. And but I think this is one of the best and still holds up today in that regard. Uh, Another Beatles album that was at one time my favorite, Abbey Road. I mean, if you're gonna go out with a bang. I mean, so many great songs. I feel that the carry that weight, like the Golden Slumpers carry that weight. The end medley is just one of the finest moments in music history. But it's also got something, Maxwell's Silver Hammer, Oh Darling, Octopus's Garden, Here Comes the Sun. I mean, yeah, they went out with a bang, just freaking killer record. But yeah, shocking myself today. My number one in my mood today is Help. This is the one that I am most favorable towards at this date in 2020. Just for some reason, I'm looking at that track list, and that track list is the one I love the most today. It's just like, yeah, freaking, I've just seen a face, and yesterday, Dizzy Miss Lizzy, the title track. The night before, you've got to hide your love away. I need you, another girl. You're going to lose that girl. Ticket to just the whole thing. All these, all these are great. It's like, how do you rank them? You just have to just go for it and stick a number on it. Um, yeah, it's really hard to do. They're great. I love them. And like I said, you could put a completely different ranking in, and I'd be like, yeah, that's totally reasonable. So I'm curious as to what your guys' rankings of the Beatles albums are today, because it could change what your current opinion is, in this on this second on this minute. Because 10 minutes from now, you could have a totally different ranking. Like if I did this video again, it could be a completely different ranking, but that's just how I felt today. Really, there's not a Beatles album I dislike or a Beatles album that I don't even think is great. Like even like Yellow Submarine at the bottom, like is still like an S rank album. It's just the other ones are like 7 times S. They're just so good. And so it's like, yeah, I mean, like the score is great and those songs are great songs. It's just you're competing with all these other great things. And then Let It Be is a great album, but I just like don't like the story of like how it was meddled without the band. And then Magical Mystery Tour, even though it was cobbled together and wasn't really like an intended album by the band, at least the recordings were all intended the way they were. So, but yeah, I mean, they're all great. They're all great. You can't really go wrong with any of them. So yeah, let me know your ranking of the Beatles albums below. Thank you guys so much for watching. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, etc. And if you want to hear me do reactions to Beatles songs, just sign up for the Patreon. It's $1 a month for the exclusive reactions. So yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. Have a good one. Bye.